Marabunta Grande is the only gang in GTA 5 that exists to lose, not because they're weak, not because they're outnumbered, but because Rockstar designed them that way. They don't have a leader you can name. They don't have a turf war you care about. They don't even have a voice. They're just there faceless, powerless, and waiting to be erased. And that's the entire point. Marabunta Grande are a Salvadoran street gang operating out of El Burro Heights in East Los Santos with a secondary set in Vespucci Beach. Blue bandanas, full-face tattoos, MS-13 inspiration written all over them. Spanish dialogue you're not supposed to understand. They're everywhere in free roam, standing on corners, leaning on cars, glaring at you from porches. But here's the thing. They don't control anything. Not a block, not a business, not a single mission objective that matters. They're just set dressing with guns. And if you kill 20 of them in a drive-by, the game doesn't even blink. Their enemies? Everyone. The families hate them, the Ballas hate them, the Vagos definitely hate them. Varios Los Aztecas are at war with them over drug and arms trafficking in Blaine County. Trevor wipes out entire crews of them for fun. Franklin runs through their hood like it's a warm-up level. And the LSPD? They roll through El Burro Heights like it's open season. Marabunta Grande has no allies, no protection, and no plan. They're reactive, defensive, constantly on the back foot, and Rockstar never gave them a reason to be anything else. Quick note, I've linked a few items related to this video in the description and pinned comment. If you're curious, check them out. Now let's get back to the story. Compare them to the families. The families have history. They have legacy. They have characters like Lamar and Stretch Guys you actually remember, even if you hate them. They have internal politics, ambition, and a sense of identity. There's weight to their presence. You understand why they exist in the story, what they're fighting for, and what they've lost over the years. The Ballas, same thing. They're the villain gang, but they're still developed. They move weight, control blocks, and you can feel the tension when you roll through their territory. They've been the enemy since San Andreas, and that history gives them narrative gravity. The Vagos operate with clear structure hierarchy, motive, presence in the drug trade. They've got connections to the cartels. They've got money flowing. They're organized. Even the Lost MC, a biker gang of meth-cooking white guys who get slaughtered by Trevor, has more character development than Marabunta Grande. Johnny Klebitz had an entire DLC. Clay and Terry have names, dialogue, personality. You remember them. But Marabunta Grande? No names, no faces, no arc. You could delete them from the game entirely and nothing would change. Not one mission, not one cutscene, not one line of dialogue. And that's not an oversight. That's a choice. Rockstar didn't forget to develop Marabunta Grande. They deliberately left them empty. Look at how they're used in missions. Their first appearance is in Father-Son, the 5th story mission in the game. Jimmy tries to sell Michael's yacht to them, and they just steal it instead, with Jimmy still on board. Michael and Franklin chase them down the freeway. Franklin jumps onto the boat. Michael shoots Marabunta Grande members while driving. And when it's over, the gang gets away with the boat anyway. No consequence. No follow-up. Just nameless targets getting shot off a yacht while the protagonists crack jokes. They show up again in Trevor's arms trafficking side missions. Oscar sends Trevor to destroy their weapon shipments coming in by sea and rail. Twice in the ground missions, they try to steal packages from Trevor. And both times, they fail. They're obstacles, speed bumps, enemies that exist so Trevor can blow something up and move on. No dialogue, no cutscenes, no moral weight. Just bodies and explosions. The game treats them like target practice. In GTA Online, Marabunta Grande appears in gang attacks. If you defeat them in 5 gang attacks within one session, you get a text from someone called The Boss that says, "You're in trouble now, bitch." That's it. That's the only named figure associated with the entire gang, a threatening text message from a contact called The Boss. No name, no face, no story, just an automated bounty system. And even that gets resolved in GTA Online's Last Play, Bad Company's mission set in 2020, where the player kills the boss at a construction site in Alta, the only leader Marabunta Grande ever had, and you murder him in a random heist setup mission that most players probably forgot about. They exist so you can feel powerful, so Franklin can flex, so Trevor can be chaos incarnate, so the player can rack up a body count without the story caring. They're not characters, they're props. Expendable set pieces in a world that only values people with leverage, and Rockstar coded them that way on purpose. Here's what Marabunta Grande represents in GTA's satirical world. Disposable crime. Crime without influence. Violence that doesn't matter because the people committing it don't matter to the system. Other gangs in Los Santos have something legacy, political cover, media narratives, fear, respect. The families in Ballas have been at war since the 80 seconds. That war shaped Grove Street. It shaped CJ's story in San Andreas. It shaped the entire mythology of South LS. The Vagos run drugs and have ties to the cartel, real infrastructure, real money. Even the Lost MC, a biker gang full of meth-head white dudes, gets more narrative respect than Marabunta Grande. Why? Because in GTA's world, some criminals get to be characters. Others just get to be statistics. Marabunta Grande always loses because they have no shields, no political leverage, no sympathetic media spin, no historical foothold in the city. They're new, they're foreign, and they're poor. And in a game that satirizes power structures, wealth, and influence, that makes them perfect victims. The LSPD doesn't fear them. Rival gangs don't respect them. The protagonists barely notice them. They're the gang everyone can step on without consequence, and that's their entire function in the game. They exist so other characters can prove themselves, so Franklin can show he's not just another street kid, so Lamar can talk tough, so Trevor can be the chaos merchant he was designed to be. Marabunta Grande is the NPC enemy in a world where only main characters get to matter. When Franklin moves through El Burro Heights and Vespucci Beach, he doesn't talk about Marabunta Grande the way he talks about the Ballas. There's no history, no personal beef, no respect, even as enemies. They're just in the way, and that's deeper than simple gang rivalry. Franklin sees Marabunta Grande as what he's trying to escape, a gang with no future, no exit, no upward mobility. They're stuck, and Franklin's whole arc is about not being stuck. Marabunta Grande is the life Franklin refuses to accept. They're the trap he's climbing out of, and the game makes sure you know the difference. Franklin gets a mansion, a garage full of cars, heist money, a way out. Marabunta Grande gets nothing. Franklin's arc is about proving he's more than his environment. Marabunta Grande is the environment he's escaping. They represent stagnation, endless violence, and a system that will never let them rise. Franklin becomes a millionaire. Marabunta Grande stays in El Burro Heights, getting shot by cops, players, and rival gangs until the servers shut down. Here's where it gets uncomfortable. Marabunta Grande is Rockstar's commentary on how certain gangs, certain people, are treated as inherently disposable. In the real world, Central American gangs like MS-13 are used as political symbols. They're associated with deportation rhetoric, border panic, fear-mongering. They're painted as foreign threats, as violent outsiders who don't belong, as criminals that need to be removed rather than understood. Politicians invoke them to justify crackdowns. Media uses them to sell fear. And in GTA 5, that's exactly how Marabunta Grande is framed within the world of Los Santos. They're outsiders in a city that already decided they don't matter. They're the gang that exists to be blamed, to be removed, to be forgotten. Rockstar isn't endorsing that reality, they're mirroring it. GTA is satire. It reflects the ugliest parts of American culture back at you and forces you to sit with it. And Marabunta Grande is part of that reflection. They're the gang that nobody defends. The gang with no origin story, no redemption arc, no tragic backstory that makes you sympathize. No equivalent of Sweet Johnson trying to save the neighborhood. No equivalent of Wade loving Trevor despite everything. They're just the enemy. Faceless, voiceless, replaceable. And in a world where power, money, and media narratives determine your value, being powerless is a death sentence. You never get a Marabunta Grande character who becomes important. You never get a defector who joins your crew. You never get a mission where you realize they're more than you thought. The game simply refuses to do that, because giving them depth would undermine what they represent. Marabunta Grande is there to show you what happens to people the system has no use for. They're gang members without the protection of legacy, without political capital, without anyone who cares if they live or die. And GTA 5 doesn't sugarcoat that. It just shows you the reality and lets you pull the trigger. Even their territory tells the story. In Vespucci Beach, they only appear after the repossession mission is complete, when the Vagos disappear and Marabunta Grande takes their place. They literally replace another gang, showing up in the exact same spots, doing the exact same thing. Interchangeable, replaceable, generic. They don't earn that territory. They don't fight for it on screen. They just spawn there after the plot needs the Vagos gone. And that's how Rockstar sees them, as background characters who exist to fill space. Marabunta Grande isn't scary because they're dangerous. They're scary because they're replaceable. You can kill 100 of them and 100 more will spawn on the same corner the next day. You can wipe them off a block and they'll be back tomorrow, standing in the exact same spots, saying the exact same lines, waiting to get shot again. They don't have leaders because leaders would make them real. They don't have missions because missions would make them matter. They don't have stories because stories would make you care. And Rockstar doesn't want you to care. Not because they're lazy, but because that's the point. Marabunta Grande exists in GTA 5 the same way they exist in the real American imagination, as a faceless threat that can be eliminated without guilt, without consequence, and without memory. They're the gang nobody mourns. The gang that gets erased and forgotten. The gang that proves you can build an entire criminal underworld and still decide some criminals just don't count. And that's the most brutal role Rockstar could have given them. If you think Marabunta Grande got treated unfairly, wait until you see how GTA destroys entire neighborhoods on purpose. Subscribe. This channel explains what GTA never says out loud. If Marabunta Grande shows how GTA treats gangs without power, the Duggan crime family shows what happens when money still isn't enough. Click watch next to see why Los Santos shut them out.